My name is Bernard Von Nothaus. I was the monetary architect for the Liberty Dollar. Liberty Dollar was the first private alternate currency that was 100% backed up by gold and silver that could be used on a voluntary basis for any transaction within the United States or worldwide. It was actually distributed all over the world. As a result of my work and the success of the Liberty Dollar, I was convicted on March 18, 2011 of counterfeiting. They said that a Liberty Dollar looked like a quarter. It was actually gold and silver specie. It was also available in paper form, and it was also available in digital form. So all three forms was available in the Liberty Dollar model. Obviously, the government didn't like it. After an extensive investigation, they confiscated 11 tons of gold and silver, and they also arrested me and convicted me of counterfeiting, fraud, and conspiracy. That was on March the 18th, and I'm currently awaiting 22 years sentence in federal prison. That was March 18, 2011. We are just coming up to March in 2014, so I've been waiting 3 years to be sentenced. This is most unusual. Usually in a federal case, you are incarcerated within 60 days after being found guilty. It was the first and the most successful currency. It was the second most popular currency in the United States. Initially issued on October 1st, 1998, and actually ceased to circulate in March of 2012. Well, I think the big difference is the attitude that government has then versus the way the government attitude now, plus the fact that not only what I was the first, but the Bitcoin has become so extremely popular that the government realizes that it's all but impossible to put the genie back in the bottle. Well, actually, there's well over 1,000 different alternate currencies around the world. But what differentiates them from the Liberty Dollar was the Liberty Dollar was 100% specie-based, in other words, gold and silver-based, whereas none of those currencies are specie-based. They are fiat currencies, largely because the people behind them, although their intentions are well and good, they don't have any money. So they can't come up with the money to start 100% specie-based currency. So what I did after I retired from the mint after 25 years, I used my retirement money to launch the Liberty Dollar, to provide Americans with an alternative to a depreciating currency. Look at the example between the Liberty Dollar and the US dollar in the first 10 years. That would be from 1998 to 2008. In those 10 years, we distributed somewhere between $65 and $85 million to 250,000 people. During that time frame, the US dollar depreciated by 50%, while the Liberty Dollar appreciated 500%. Went from the $10 base to $20 base to the $50 base. The differential between those two currencies is a whopping 1,000% difference. The government couldn't tolerate such a disparity between their piece of shit and my gold and silver Liberty Dollars. It is a combination of that. The Liberty Dollar was based on brackets, and so initially it was based on the $10 base. It was introduced at the $10 base, and then when the price of silver moved up, it moved to the 20. And when silver moved up again, it went to the $50 base. So yes, it has to do with the appreciation, but what is the appreciation of metals? It's nothing more than an example of the depreciating dollar. Why do metals go up? Because the US dollar goes down in value. The purchasing power of gold and silver maintains the same. You can see this by comparing the price of gasoline. When I started driving, gasoline was 25 cents a gallon. That meant that at that time, the US dollar, which was still redeemable into $1 coins, okay, so that was 3/4 of an ounce. So at that time, 3/4 of an ounce bought, a lot of gasoline. The reality is that 3/4 of an ounce still buys the same amount. There's 5 gallons of gas, and you can still buy 5 gallons of gas today. So what it does is it proves conclusively that the silver holds its value. Well, because it isn't based on anything. It has no tie to value whatsoever at all. It's manipulated by the government for their own means, which is, what is their means? War, war, and more war. There's something morally wrong with a fiat currency that does nothing more than enrich the damn politicians, kills our people, and finances war. There's something wrong with that. There's a moral element to money. It is. It's the way that they manipulate their economies. So their economy may not be the Romanesque model as the American model is today, because they're not empire building or empire protecting as the American politicians are. But that doesn't mean it's any better. Their currency are still depreciating. The fact that they're not using it for war, that's admirable, but that isn't good enough, because they're still ripping off their citizens of their value. Who would know? Who would even know what would happen with Bitcoin 5 years ago? But what's significant is the fact that I've been identified as the person who inspires Satoshi Nakamoto to create the Bitcoin. When I first heard this, I was actually quite amazed. But this came by way of a third-party individual who was at a hackers convention in the Netherlands. And of course, at a hackers convention, everybody uses an alias, right? There was a young hacker there who used the alias of Satoshi Nakamoto. And he talked to a friend of mine, who's now a friend, I didn't know him at that time, who identified the Liberty Dollar and me as inspiring him to create a new currency. That was in 2005, so we now know that this person who was anonymous at that time and remains anonymous today actually relied upon my work to inspire him. I think that's cool. You never know. I mean, you look at all the different currencies, the new Liberty Dollar, the Aspen Dollar, the Gun Dollar, the Second Amendment dollar. There's dozens of currencies out there that have, I want to say, copied my model, which is good. I'm glad. I'm happy to be the father of gold and silver based currency. Well, it isn't right now. The fact is that I haven't been convicted, so my case is still pending. My case is still open, and I still hope that the judge will grant my motion for acquittal and acquit me, set me free, and establish the Liberty Dollar for what it really is. It's a genuine legal currency. Private money. Private voluntary barter currency is a phrase that we use. Another time is have been branded as the Rosa Parks of monetary rights. I don't look like Rosa Parks. Competition always provides the best product in the marketplace. The only reason the government can't exist is because of guns. They force people to use their money, and they turn around and manipulate for their own means, which is often corrupt or immoral, like war. So Competition, private currencies. If you go back and you look at Friedrich von Hayek's work and his book on denationalization of money or the free market money, both of those are brilliant, brilliant works which really establishes the intellectual firepower for private currencies. We've never had the ability to experiment with private currencies. Only on very rare occasions have the world ever had private currency. Scotland had it for a while. Hong Kong still issues their own private money through the banks. These are regulated by the government, but they don't have any control over the money. This is a much better model. The competition provides the best product in the marketplace, regardless if you're talking about services, products, and certainly money.